There we go. Again, Mick, we'll just start off with this. My technology skills are pretty awesome.
I'm overwhelmed, especially knowing the starting point on this deal. I mean, talk about personal growth and just willing yourself to become a better, more capable person. I'm seeing it right here.
I spent a half hour on the treadmill today, not walking, running, just on the treadmill. I don't know what to call it. And I sweated more in the last half hour trying to get this technology figured out than I did on the treadmill. So we're happy to be live, and thanks for joining us. Again, it's Mondays with Mick, and we'll get to Mick on what you're doing here shortly. A couple things I just wanted to point out. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out and ask everybody to say a prayer for Coach Mark Steffner from Sully Buttes. He's at Mayo and is going through treatment options for a brain tumor, and he was hoping to have surgery today or tomorrow, but they pushed that back. I saw it till next week. So, just a lot of uncertainty in their lives right now. If you know Mark, he's one of those guys that you like. Just again, one of the quiet heroes in our world. Been coaching football and girls basketball up at Sully Buttes for a long time, and obviously had a huge success in both those sports, and had a lot of great athletes. Chloe Lambs, having a great career at USD, and so we just really are thoughts and prayers are with Mark and his family as they go through this. So, Mick, what do you? I saw you. I don't know if it was today that you dropped a story for Sanford Health News on the vaccine.
Kind of a cool story where it just kind of looks at the difference between the Moderna vaccine, which was approved and is now going to be distributed, versus the Pfizer vaccine, which was approved all last week, and people are getting in the Midwest now, in South Dakota. And there's some minor differences. I think the lesson, though, is that you should take the one that's available. Statistically, there are some differences. One, Pfizer is, you take your second dose, 21 days. Moderna, it's 28, and behind the scenes, the way they store it is a little bit different, each of them. But one is like 94 and change effectiveness for the Moderna, and Pfizer was at 95. So it's great that we're getting this opportunity to get more vaccine in the area, because there are two versions of it. And you shouldn't care which one you get. You should take the one that's available to you as soon as you got the opportunity to get vaccinated.
Absolutely. I talked to a couple of my friends that are in the healthcare industry, and they're even in Parksman, they're going to be getting it this week, and they're legitimately excited to get this, because they see this as the start of the end, of this pandemic.
It's the beginning of the end. As the doctor that I talked to last week said, this is our way out, and very succinct way of describing exactly what this means to us, and that we should, when we get the opportunity, we should get vaccinated.
Awesome. Let's get right to our guests. Alex and Morgan Robey join us, and Alex and Morgan, you look very comfortable there, but maybe when this is all said and done, you can join us out in public. But we appreciate you joining us. And where are you joining us from?
We're just at our house, actually. So our kids are occupied watching some Paw Patrol. Hopefully, we might get interrupted here, kind of as we go. But just kind of winding down for the night, I guess. So yeah, we had our family supper and just kind of hanging out until kids get to bed. So
for those that don't know Alex and Morgan, a lot of people will recognize Alex's name because of his dad. We talked about your dad last week on this show, and it had nothing to do with his coaching ability, because he's
that's probably good.
Coach. But we talked about his lack of athletic ability, and had a good laugh. But Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Morgan, you do the same, please.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm Alex Robey. I guess I grew up in both Aberdeen, basically until I was an 8th grader. And then as an 8th grader, I moved back or down to Sioux Falls when my dad got a coaching job and teaching job at Sioux Falls O'Gorman. So I basically just kind of lived here my whole life. Went to USF, was fortunate enough to play college basketball there, and just got to spend, 5 years there actually, and just getting to kind of fall in love with it. And then after that, Morgan and I, we actually got married in college for 5th year, my 5th year, her 4th year, I guess. But then we moved to Elkton, South Dakota, Brookings area, where Morgan was getting her master's at State. And I was coaching and teaching at Elkton. Loved it. We loved the small town community, and we actually thought we'd be there longer than we ended up being there. But job opportunity led us back to Sioux Falls, and now this is our 4th year, right? This will be our 4th school year back. So kind of just grew up in South Dakota my whole life and haven't moved too far away, I guess. But
yeah, and like you said, I'm Morgan Robey. I was Morgan DeLang before this guy. But I grew up in Watertown, South Dakota, and had a lot of identity in sports and different things similar to Alex that way. I played tennis at USF for my college career, majored in psych and criminal justice, and then afterwards went to South Dakota State to get my master's in school counseling. And then from there, I've been in the Sioux Falls Catholic school, Bishop O'Gorman school system this is my 4th year. The first 2 years I spent at the elementary level, and then I've been at O'Gorman High School this is my, a year and a half now, so this is my 2nd year. We have 2 sweet littles. Decorah is 4, and she's in preschool 4, and Sylvan is 2.5 at daycare. And then we have 2 very rowdy puppies that keep us even busier than our children. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. You mentioned the 2 children you have, and how's that work with you guys both working at O'Gorman? Are they going to come through the O'Gorman school system?
They are, yes. We are we feel so blessed to be in O'Gorman. It's so funny looking back on my journey specifically, in that I was not a fan of O'Gorman growing up, right? Like Watertown tennis player versus O'Gorman tennis, it was frustrating because we got slaughtered every time we played them. But that's okay. And now we're here, and I just love the community of O'Gorman, the family aspect of it all, and the faith implemented into all of it is just such a beautiful experience. And I'm pumped that our kids that are laughing in the background, I don't know if you heard that, but are going to get to grow up a part of it. And it's so much fun because like Decorah right now, we call Derek Robey, instead of calling him grandpa, we call him coach. And so even our kids call him coach. And so coach picks her up to go to preschool every morning because he's the gym teacher at her school. Like, how cool is that? It's so much fun to all be together, doing life together in that space. And we just feel really blessed.
Yeah. And, a little bit more about O'Gorman and, people outside, not liking O'Gorman, but everybody doesn't like everybody else, right? When we're competing. And I say this a lot, how blessed and how special O'Gorman is. And that's not a shot at the other schools. Watertown has an awesome school and unbelievable administrators. But, it's just a pride thing when you're in a school system. It's like when you were in Elkton, what a great school that was. And we have so many of those. But, when you're at a place like O'Gorman, you find out really quickly it's pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned your 2 kids, and now let's get right into, your family is expanding, right?
Correct. Yes.
So, well, maybe just you guys are adopting or in the process of adopting. Maybe go back to, how this kind of started. Did you guys, think about adopting when you first got married, and this is just coming now? How did that whole process come about?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess we actually had the conversation when we were first dating at USF, just intentionally had conversations yeah, I obviously want to have kids growing up, and that led to conversation of how many kids you want and what does that look like. And Morgan was like, as many as we can. So I kind of, I led her back to no, you got to reel this back in. So we settled on, who knows? I mean, Lord willing, but we the conversation came up that we wanted to adopt at some point. We just always felt like that was a calling of ours. We just felt like there was obviously a huge need for adoption in the world. And when we asked each other about it, we were just open and said, of course, if God wants us to just have our own biological children, if God is calling us to that, we're going to be open and we're going to do whatever we can to answer that. So it's been a conversation since basically the beginning.
We have a super Sylvan running around up here. Yeah, it's really, when we look back, it's really kind of beautiful how God put our hearts in parenting together, because I have always, it's hard to even explain, but I'm sorry. I just the natural desire to parent through biology. I always had this similar desire to parent through adoption. And then in sharing my heart for that, Alex kind of shared this really intense heart towards children with special considerations or special needs. And so then when we put those together, it came to this place of pursuing a special needs adoption. So, okay. All right.
Thank you.
But so apparently the super pups on Paw Patrol is translating to super pups through our house. But yeah, so that's kind of what brought us to start the process. And then we had both done some mission work in various places. We both went to Zambia shortly after getting married. And then I spent some time at an orphanage in Jamaica, just short-term mission work, and just started pursuing the research behind international adoption and where we would land. And that a lot of intentional prayer and research, and really looking at what we were even eligible for, because we hadn't been married long enough according to a lot of countries, and we weren't old enough compared for a lot of countries, and looking at what was happening in the various cultures and different things, we found out that India was a specifically special needs program. So all people adopting from there internationally, you go in knowing that you're adopting a child with special needs, and that kind of met us where we were in the process. And so a year ago, August, we started. So a little over a year now into the process.
So about a year, the process is taking you this far. They just shut the lights on us. So, you've got kids running around. We got people shutting the lights on us, but it's all good. Well. And so about a year, this process is taking you, and, where does it stand right now?
So it's kind of crazy because we can see the light at the tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel, because it just felt like, we're always going through this step of paperwork, and this step of paperwork leads to the next step of paperwork, and then this one and this one. But now we're actually basically 2 steps away from going to India. We're waiting on one more big step of paperwork to be approved, which we submitted about 10-ish days ago, and it kind of depends. Obviously, COVID throws a wrench into things, so we never really for sure how long it's going to take. But we're waiting on that, and then once that step gets approved, we're actually starting the court process in India, and that's kind of the big variable, because kind of depending on the judge we get, or like it could be really quick and they could like prioritize it, and it could be a month, or it could be a year. Like it's, again, it just kind of depends on the judge and where the what their court system is going through. And obviously, again, with COVID, it's just like, who knows? But we're kind of, this whole time frame, we're just kind of like operating on God's timeline, and when it happens, we're going to be ready. So, but like I said, that we're getting towards the end, which is exciting.
Well, and the biggest game changer in the process was that, like he said, the whole process has been kind of like you hurry up and wait just to continue hurrying up to wait. But about 2 months ago now, we were matched with a little girl. And so that's been the big game changer. When we started the process, you say your openness to needs, and we expressed that we were open to moderate to severe needs and a sibling set, girl or girl or boy. Kind of, we were very open just to whoever we would be matched with. And we were matched with a sweet little girl who at the time of match was 16 months. So she's a year and a half now. She's in a very rural part of India. So she's at a very small orphanage. That's been an interesting element because our documents are having a really hard time getting to her. So like the closest we can ever get them to her orphanage is like 8 hours. So then we're paying couriers to bring the documents to her. And that's just been an interesting extra thing we're learning about. But, there's certain details we can and can't share, but her name, we want to maintain her name and her culture as much as we can. And so her name means ray of light. And it's just such a beautiful thing. She's such a sweet little girl. She has a limb difference. So we have prosthetics and OT and PT in our future. And so we've been doing a lot of research on local supports for that. And we've gotten her initial photos and videos. And other than that, we haven't gotten any updates because it's kind of up to the orphanage. But we can't wait to meet her. The most recent email was like, it could be like 2 months, it could be a year. So it's just kind of a lot of trust in this process, a lot of trust and patience.
Morgan, I guess when you tell this story, it just seems like it would be so frustrating that this is all going on from continents away from each other, and it, in addition to just the weight itself, that weaving your way through all of this must take a bunch of emotional patience, I guess.
Yes.
It's confusing, honestly. Like, we talk a lot about how can you so desperately miss someone you've never met, and how, what do we even pray for? We talk about that a lot too. Luckily, there's as we've gotten into the process, there's this really solid community of adopted families in Sioux Falls that we've got connected with, and that's been a game changer. There's a group called The Gathering Well, and they meet once a month, and it's just been a phenomenal resource to be able to sit with friends and be like, that was a hard one, and here's what worked for us, here's what didn't. There's also a really sweet Facebook group that's all India adopted families, and so we all are in doing the exact same things at that exact same time, and that's been really cool to kind of have those resources of families and get to see people are going to India now to bring their child home, and it's just so exciting to see that and be like, that will be us sometime. But it's a beautifully messy process.
So you've mentioned a couple times, you're blessed, prayer and relying on your faith. Where does that come from? As a couple, you're young yet, how do you guys have such strong faith in such a beautiful thing going on, but like you said, frustrating, and you don't have any control over it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Control is a hot topic word in our family. Control feels good, and there's such a lack of it in the adoption process. But also a lot of learning that comes with that. If you want to sit with the faith, that's a good idea.
I don't know. I guess for me, like kind of keeping the faith, because God has just been so good about showing us that He's providing, even at times that Morgan and I are like failing to see it. I guess would be a good, like, just even when Morgan and I would come together at the beginning of the process, and me having anxieties about financial reasons, or like, I don't know, Morgan, 3 kids is a lot, like kind of talking it through. It always have these concerns that I think are probably pretty natural to have. And we just kind of forced ourselves to say, like, you know, God's got it under control. But then it was just like a beautiful thing just to see how He would actually provide in those ways, and just kind of ways, just kind of just randomly, I guess, too. Like, so many, like, our church has been so amazing. We've been starting to attend Life Church for a couple of years now, I guess.
A year, yeah.
A little over a year. And they've been so good about, we had a garage sale, and even that, we're like, I don't know how many people are going to come. I don't know how much stuff we're going to have. And we just had like an overwhelming amount of stuff, and like tons of people coming. Even like, this was in the summer and kind of the midst of COVID, and we were all like, I don't know, is this going to work? And it was just so good to see, like, wow, God provided in this moment. Or just meeting so many people through Gathering Well, or just mutual friends that have donated. Or I guess another recent thing with Coach Weeds here was just showing, Morgan and I were talking about, you know, with we going to India, we may have to go a couple times due to like longer process, or just due to COVID, we might actually have to fly more. So that's like a little bit more financial. Are we right? Like, are we going to handle this? And then people like Coach Weeds, like, you know, are doing fundraisers with a basketball team. It's like, this is so great. Like, God is providing. And that's just one thing, I guess. It's just kind of like a faith restorer, I guess, is a good way to do it. It's just like God's there even when you're not really expecting it, I guess.
And I think too, beyond I think you go in and you look at the logistics, because again, control, like, it feels like you can kind of control like that part. And so when you start, you're like, the money piece is so daunting. And then so many people show up, and it's just absurd, like how it's just amazing. But even beyond the financial piece, like, it is so clear that even if we would have to wait longer to bring her home, which would be so hard, but we have learned so incredibly much about ourselves and our faith and adoptive, because part of it is training, like hours upon hours upon hours of training. And we know so much more about trauma, which, I'm a counselor and I still am growing and learning about that. And we've learned so much about transracial adoption and how to like preserve her identity and her culture. And like, so much growth has happened within ourselves in the process, and it's just been such a cool thing. But then God has just showed up in like little ways throughout too. Like, so if you look up her state, when you think of India, you think like high population, like a lot of moving and grooving. And when you look up her state on Wikipedia, it literally says population comparable to the United States state of South Dakota. Like, it's like so many weird little things like that it's just like, oh, this was so many pieces. We stayed at a random bed and breakfast in Duluth a couple months ago, and the lady was like, oh, we used to go to India and bring adopted children home to their families. And we're like just so many things along the way that God's been like, I'm right here, like, you're waiting, but I'm hanging out and I'm watching over it and I'm doing all the things. And it's just been really, it's been hard when it comes to having trust and faith, but it's been really beautiful too, and just having that enhanced experience of trust.
I would guess that when these little things, they seem insignificant, but when you're up against all these deals, and I'm sure you've had to question your resolve to see this to the end. Those are little presents there. They're kind of fueling all those doubts and all the anxiety involved.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And too, like, we feel, if you're gonna go through adoption in a pandemic, somehow our process worked just right that things hit at the ideal time to not have a huge deterrent in the process. Like if you look at the timelines they gave us right away, like adoption is never predictable, but we pretty much lined up so far because of the timing of things. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how it's all worked out.
And Alex, I know obviously you grew up as an only child. Morgan, do you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 older brothers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, you mentioned the daunting task maybe of having 3 kids now.
Yeah.
Talk about, how are you working with your 2 younger kids? Are you 2 older? I guess they'll be older.
Yeah.
And, how are you working them through this, and how are they comprehending, or can you see the wheels spinning? What it means we have a baby sister and she can't
Yeah.
get way down.
Yeah. Well, I think we are trying to give them as much support, and just always kind of bringing up your sister in India, and I don't know, like, I guess it was a little bit more natural of a process when it was just Decora, our oldest, because Sylvan was in her mommy's tummy, and it was like, oh yeah, of course I have my brother. But now it's a little bit harder for them to understand, like, what do you mean she's already here, but she's just on the other side of the world? And so we're trying to work through that. Like, we're obviously kind of trying to get our house prepped to look like we're buying Indian books and trying to kind of bring that culture already, and talk about the differences that she's going to have and the different experiences that she's going to already kind of grow up with, because she's not that much younger than Sylvan, so it's not like she's going to be a brand new infant. So just to kind of prepare them that she is going to have experiences that a baby wouldn't, if that makes sense. And we're also trying to with Roshni having a limb difference, we're also trying to make it, we're buying different books and things to kind of talk about that. But so it's just been kind of a slow, steady process, I guess.
Yeah. It's really funny you say that, because the other night I was walking out of Alex's basketball game, and we had been there for 4.5 hours, and I had one in each hand. And I was like, man, you 2, what am I going to do when your sister's here? Like, where's she going to go? And then the next day, Deco was taking care of Sylvan, and I'm like, thank you for helping him. And she goes, yeah, what am I going to do when I have a sister to help too? It was like, well, we're all going to figure it out together. It's going to be great. There's going to be bumps, but there's going to be a lot of love, and it's going to be good. Big transition.
So let me ask you a couple more questions and we'll let you get going, because I'm sure Paw Patrol's almost over. You mentioned culturally the difference. Have you guys been studying up, Googling stuff? And, how do you see that playing, out?
Yeah.
That's a loaded question, because, it's going to ever changing.
That's been another huge learning thing, because when we started the process, we knew there would be a ton of considerations that come with adoption, because there's no adoption without trauma and loss. Like, they only exist together. And so we knew that would be a thing. But our agency was really transparent with us. And when they called us, they were like for one of our first interviews, I'll never forget it. She looked at our family and she was like, so you have this very beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white family. So what happens when you have a child of color in there? And then from that point on, we have worked really hard to read, transracial adoptee voices and specific Indian adoptee voices, and implement as much of her culture into our space as we can. And we really genuinely love India, and it's such a gorgeous culture and such a beautiful place. And we know that that's like an epically big part of her identity and always will be. And so we always want to represent that in our house. And, you know, one of the things is like keeping her name that her parents gave her is super important to us. You know, we have just as many, I mean, we have the whole, you know, every color of doll and representative of difference. All of our books are getting more and more inclusive. Like, we have a long way to go, and we're always going to be journeying through it. And luckily, we have some people in our lives that are willing to support us in that. We're working hard to find cultural mirrors for her in our community so that she can look up to strong Indian men and women in our area and kind of learn from them too and grow. And I think a lot of it is like we've had to be really vulnerable in the process because we've had so much to learn. You know, as a counselor, I try to be so sensitive to language that I use, and that's just enhanced it so much more, like adoption language. You know, so like it's intricate, and there's a lot behind it, and we have a lot to learn, but we're very open to trying, and we're looking at like their holidays, and like ones that we can, you know, even if the faiths don't necessarily align, to like represent those holidays and acknowledge those holidays is also beautiful, but still celebrating our Christianity in our home too, of course. And so we're doing some hard work in that. We have a long way to go, but we're trying to be vulnerable and open in it.
So, and kind of do like Morgan said, is like we never feel like we're gonna get to like the perfect place in that. Like we're obviously there's gonna be questions that come along the way as she gets older, and like we're never gonna be able to answer those questions. But we're just hoping to kind of build the support system now and have those mirrors that we can support her to have people that can answer those questions along the way. Yeah. So we're kind of trying to develop that now. And
And another piece that like we know that India is part of our story. Like we plan to go back often. We want to learn as much as we can about her birth family. We know that, you know, if the world went as God intended, she would be with her birth family because that's the place that she was intended to be. And we always want to honor that. Like we are so in love with her birth family too. And so we know that this isn't ideal for her. So we want to recognize and honor everything that she was intended for too. And then also just love on her throughout the journey with us.
That's really special. I have one more question for you. Mick, you got anything else?
I'm good for now. I'm fascinated though. God bless you for taking this all on. I think that people will listen to this and maybe a little overwhelmed by what you're taking on, but also like, okay, it looks like these two can handle it.
Yeah.
Well, we
depends on the day.
Yeah, if yeah, I guess if people think we can handle it, we're doing a better job faking it. I guess because sometimes it feels like, oh boy, I don't know, but we're doing our best, and we're doing what we feel God is asking us to do. So
awesome. And you mentioned the O'Gorman basketball team has kind of been doing a little fundraiser. They've been doing it to help out Higher Power Sports, get some gifts for some needy kids in southeastern South Dakota and out on the Lower Brule Indian Reservation. I worked with some kids out there as well. And then half the money is going to go to the Robey family for their adoption expenses. So I know one of the things you need, and you won't ask for it all, you know, is help financially to, you know, you got to travel to India. Like I told the guys, this is it. They're not going to Fargo. Okay? You know, they've got to go to India, and that's a big expense. And you might have to spend 2, 3, 4 weeks there at a time and things like that. So I'm still getting some of our guys, the O'Gorman guys are still getting some money in, but I want to let everybody know if you want to donate to that, just let me know, and we'll get that money to good people and to the Robeys to, you know, help with this. So if anybody wants to help the Robeys out, let me know, and we'll get that taken care of. So the question is, what else, when you think this is what we need, what else do you need?
Well, first of all, we're so incredibly grateful. I like words can't describe how grateful we are that you guys thought of us in this process. To your question, our answer will always be prayers. You know, specifically praying, like we have a lot of abstract prayers right now, just wanting her to know love, whether it be in a tangible physical sense in her orphanage or just from afar, or, you know, through the Holy Spirit, just knowing love. But specifically, we pray a lot over the judge right now. Whatever judge we have, that he sees favor in us and prioritizes it so we can get to her sooner. You know, we've read stories of judges who are like, yes, in international adoption makes it happen right away, and others that they push the case aside due to other priorities. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just other things are happening in a court system, of course. And so, but for over a year, just keep like 12 and 13 court cases that just keep. So we pray over our judge a lot. Also, her birthday's in June. And I mean, obviously we'd love to get to her sooner, but in thinking of specific prayers, we pray often for, like, we want to have her home or know her in person for her birthday. That would be such a wonderful blessing, and a lot needs to happen efficiently in order for that to happen. But that would be our next big prayer request related to that. And then just preparing all of our hearts. I mean, and not just ours and our children's, but you know, our parents and the people who watch our children. I mean, we have such an amazing supportive community. And you know, when you bring children into a home, whether it be through biology or adoption, like it changes for everyone, right? And there's some extra considerations for our daughter. And so just preparing all of our hearts for that process and that transition, I think.
Yeah.
Dennis?
That's good.
All right. Well,
and sorry, I was just gonna say one more thing. I guess I would also say, like, if anybody's considering adoption, like, I know that in often our stories, we talk about the hard, because it is, I mean, it's a hard process. But there are so many supports available. And like, if you're even like have an inkling of thinking about adoption, like, you know, I pursue it, whether that just be like information gathering or, you know, just being openness in prayer and in heart. But don't steer away because of the logistics, because God will work that stuff out. And so, and I love to talk about this stuff. So if anybody's watching and doesn't know where to start, I'd be happy to direct you. But just if it's on your mind or on your heart, like, don't just squash it, I guess, like, consider it.
yeah, because there are probably people out there that have thought about it or talked about it, but for you guys to actually jump in and do it, I commend you. And you know, obviously Mick and I will be praying for you, my family will be praying for you and your family. And you know, I don't know what the right words is, but I'm inspired and impressed by you guys and your relationship and your willingness to open your family up to helping somebody else like that. That's very commendable. So congratulations. Hope things go well. And you know, thanks a lot for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Thank you.
So Alex and Morgan are gonna sign off now, and we're gonna continue the show, Mick. So this is again, we've got stuff going on. Actually, Mike Henriksen is back there selling his book, so we're gonna go grab him. Alex and Morgan, have a great night. Tell those two sweet babies good night, and Alex, we'll see you tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, see ya.
Thank you. See ya.
All right, Mick. Okay, here comes Mike Henriksen. And for you guys that don't know Mike, Mike is he's a celebrity, right?
You really need higher standards for what you consider a celebrity.
And you know, Mike is an author. Mike, you know, maybe just for the people that don't know, maybe tell them what your job is, and then we can talk about the book real quick.
Okay, I'm a sports announcer by trade. Mark Ovenden and I from KDLT Television do a daily show on 15 radio stations, and then I've got a weekly show called the South Dakota Sports History Show that's on 20 stations across the state each week. So that's it, plus help out public broadcasting and those types of things.
And Mike is one of those guys, you know, I don't want, this doesn't mean that you're old, Mike, but Mike's been around a while, and he knows, I mean, it sort of means
I'm old. I can live with that. I got no issue with that.
Like I guess, yeah.
yeah. Well, we're hanging out with him, so
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
But I'll before we get to the book, I'll just say this about Mike: is Mike's one of the biggest advocates for South Dakota sports, whether it's college sports, but really, especially the high school level, the coaches, and especially the players, and you know, just a wealth of knowledge, and you know, really I really feel like he goes out of his way to, you know, get to know the kids and tell their story, and really, I think you really appreciate, you know, what those high school kids are doing out there today.
Well, that's very kind. We, especially when it comes to South Dakota Public Broadcasting, we've always had the idea we aren't there to coach, we aren't there to rep, we're there to highlight kids, plain and simple. And because for a lot of those kids, that's going to be the best moment of their life, not even of their athletic career, of their life. I know too many people that, you know, have been in the championship in the Dome, and then all of a sudden 3 years later, they're busted and in prison. So we're just there, and to point out the fact that they, you know, they're students also, that they're involved in study, in, you know, student council or the arts or whatever it may be. So yeah, so we try to do that.
Absolutely, you do a great job, and enjoy listening to you, because again, you're the guy that you know, people on social media, they'll comment, or some of them will kind of make fun of, because you know the center's uncle,
Right.
cousin, and all that stuff.
Yeah. My favorite line a couple years ago, I quit doing the Dome. Games at the Dome, because every year the field was getting 5 yards longer on each end. And so the night before the Dome, I was living in Dallas at the time. Thank you.
Don't forget it.
I won't.
Okay.
We'll see you in Mitchell tomorrow.
Thanks, Sam.
Yep. All right. See you in Mitchell. So I'm in the grocery store in Del Rapids tonight, on that Wednesday night before the Dome starts. And there's a buddy of mine who's like, you know, a couple of aisles over checking out. And he goes, "Oh, you stocking up for the Dome?" And I said, "No, I'm not doing football this year." And he looks at me and he goes, "Well, how the hell am I going to know who the center's uncle is?" And I thought, that may go on my tombstone. So
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. And you know, we're at Remedy here, which is an awesome place. But you were here from 5 to 7 because you have a little project.
yeah, Cindy Bahi, who a lot of people know from, yeah, that's fine, cover me up. Show the product. Cindy Bahi and I go back 30 years or so. And she was working at Kello TV when I was working at Kello Radio. She's been out here for a bunch of years, but recently she moved back. And last winter, she had an idea for a project, and she wanted, and she's published a book before, and she knew I had too, but she had an idea. Let's take everybody's funniest stories. You know, those stories that you get, that you trot out at parties or whatever. And she thought I was funny, so she said, you know, and you know some interesting people. And I was intrigued by this. Well, as we kept talking, we kind of came up with more of a model based on the Jim Valvano speech from a few years ago. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, you've had a full day. And so through social media, we reached out to some people. There were some individuals we reached out to, and we came up with this Genuine Journeys of Life. And Cindy even took the photo on the cover.
I love the title of the book.
Here's the thing. When it comes to marketing, this is what I know. Not the greatest movie ever, but the greatest movie title in history is Snakes on a Plane. no one was standing in the lobby wondering, well, what's that movie about? You know, whereas now, if you go into the movie Oblivion or what, you know, some of these odd titles. So yeah, so we wanted to have something that reflected just what this is, genuine journeys of life. And some are funny and some are heartbreaking and some are inspirational and some are just informative. But I'm really, really pleased with the mix that we got. A lot of them are South Dakota people, but it's certainly not a limited to South Dakota thing because there's so many universal truths. So as a matter of fact, one of the gals who I had actually reached out to, she stopped in tonight. The story she tells is the day that they discovered that their son Cole, at the age of 1 year old, had a heart donor. And the emotions that she went through, because that's remarkable for her, but that means some other year-old child didn't make it. And so we've got that story. We've got the story of a gal I used to work with who spent one day as a mascot for a taco joint up in Brookings, wearing an oversized head, and all the hilarity that came along with it. It's uproariously funny. There's just so many different stories.
So the book's going to take you through emotions.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, it's going to make you laugh,
And
make you cry,
yeah,
make you think.
and the nice thing is they're short stories in general. You know, some are longer, some are shorter, but so it's not like you have to begin, you know, or even start over as we get to a certain age. Jim, you'll understand that someday. You know, if you put it down long enough, you can just jump right back into where you were. So yeah, we're really pleased with the way it came out, and the response to it so far has been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mick, I got a couple more questions, and if you got anything for him. I know you're here. You were here tonight from 5 to 7. You know, where can people get the book if they want to get the book?
We were at Blarney's on Tuesday night in Mitchell, and again, you know, on my first book, I did 50 of these. You know, I was reminded of just how many bar owners across the state of South Dakota I knew, and I would
have good rapport.
and the thing, but this time, obviously due to COVID, there were just a few places that we felt comfortable, and so we're going to locally owned places, places that have high ceilings, or like at Blarney's, we'll be in a separate room and people can come in for just a couple of minutes and get the book and we can chat. But otherwise, go to sportsmaxradio.com. That's the easiest place to order it. If you want the download, that is available on Amazon as well. That's not something I had to deal with for my last book, but that's been incredibly easy. So, but most people want the physical copy. You know, they want the feel of the book in their hands. Sportsmaxradio.com. And you can also follow on Facebook. Genuine Journeys of Life has its own Facebook page, so we'll have more information there too.
Awesome.
What was it like? I'm not, it's not, the word isn't mining, but collecting these stories or collecting the people who wanted to tell them.
I was reminded, and actually mining is almost a perfect phrase for that. I was reminded of how many fascinating people I know, you know, and even if they aren't fascinating people, they've had some remarkable things happen to them. Cindy has a story in there of a gal who's a refugee. And part of what she talks about when she came over to this country was wondering where the tanks were. You know, because that's what she had grown up with. And it wouldn't, if I met that gal, it wouldn't occur to me to say, hey, tell me your backstory. You know, there's a paddle boat. This is another one of Cindy's. There's a paddle boat up in Fort Pierre. It took like 6 months to get there. I never thought, where did the paddle boat come from? How did that get there? You know, and Cindy found the guy. It was a 6-month ordeal of basically driving it up a series of rivers and fighting winter and all sorts of other things. So yeah, that's really been the most amazing thing. Amy Ellsworth is in the book, and I don't know if you know Amy, outstanding singer with Bloodberry Bands. And she just talks about how she got into singing, and the title of hers is no stage too small. You know, she's sung in front of, 50,000 people doing the national anthem, but she's delighted to sing at your wedding. You know, she just enjoys it. So yeah, so there's a lot of those types of things. It was fun, Nick, it was fun asking the question. That's basically what you do for a living as well. So yeah, I to me, that's the most fun part. And I've gotten to know some of these people better. Toby Kane is in the book. Toby's an entertainer here in town.
Good man.
Yeah, and I didn't know him a lick. He's got one of my favorite stories. It's about taking his dad on a little weekend excursion when he was being treated over in Rochester. And so Toby takes his mom and dad in it. You talk about wrapping up all the emotions in one story. Toby does a wonderful job of that. So yeah, Toby's been great, but yeah, now he's a friend of mine. So that was nice. So there you go. There's a long answer to the third question.
No, that's awesome. We just had Alex and Morgan Robey on.
Right.
I mean, everything he just said, they'll be in your next book.
Okay,
Because, they're adopting a little girl from India.
Right.
And the process of that,
Yep.
it's amazing, what people go through, that we don't know. Like
Right.
you said, we don't know their backstory. And, with Alex and Morgan now, when they finally get that little girl here, people are going to see that family. Oh, what a beautiful family, but they're not going to know what this year has been
Yep.
on how hard it's been on those two young people. And so fascinating that you put a lot of those stories in a book.
And we are looking for more. Quite honestly, there were some that didn't make the cut that we still have in our hip pocket. I'm convinced, I know for a fact, because we've had people go, well, I've got a story like this. And that'd be great. We want as many of these as we can possibly get. There's actually contact information in the book. If you want to reach out to us, we'd love to hear it. Because the response to this so far has been what we've hoped, and there's a reason it's volume 1. We went volume 1 in hopes of, volume 2. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
But you need to buy this one first.
Otherwise, it'll look.
You're not gonna know what's going on in volume 2.
That's right. Yes. Volume 1, so many unanswered questions.
All right. Well, it's been a fun night, Mick. It's been interesting. I've learned a lot. Like I told Alex and Morgan, I'm so impressed and inspired to do better in my life because of, again, a young married couple like that take on what to me seems like a huge, undertaking, and it is. But they're just jumped into it.
And there could have been several junctures where a normal person a well-meaning, good person would go, this is getting a little too complicated, and I don't think we can handle it right now. But they're not even close to. They're full speed ahead on this, and that's really a cool part of the story.
Absolutely. And like we said, if you want to donate to the fundraiser that, it ended last week, but we're continuing it till Christmas because we have some more Christmas presents to buy. And then, the other half of the money will go to the Robey family to help with the adoption costs. Like we said, they could have to spend over a month in India when they finally get the okay, which they'll gladly do. But obviously, that's going to take some money, so we can try to help them out the best we can. If you want to Higher Power Sports, you can send me a check, PayPal or Venmo, whatever, just get a hold of me and we'll get the money to those two people as well. Anything else, fellas, before we wrap up here?
Merry Christmas. Good seeing you
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
And thanks to you guys too for coming out this evening, because I appreciate it, and the purchase of the books and stuff. I think you'll enjoy it. And mostly it's just good to see you.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm so bummed about COVID and not doing the 50 events. Is I was able to hook up with so many people the last time and don't have as much. So when guys like you come, it really means a lot. So I appreciate that.
Well, we're glad to be here. Glad to be at Remedy again. Again, if you haven't been to Remedy, come down and check it out. Very relaxing atmosphere. You know, I know one of the guys that's kind of got a stake in this, you know, his last name's the Weidenbach. So obviously this place has to be a pretty good place. So thanks, Paul, for setting me up here tonight, and Matt and Tyler as well, from here at Remedy. So we appreciate everything, and Mick, we will see not till after Christmas. So have a great Christmas.
Yeah.
Mike, have a great Christmas, and everybody out there have a great Christmas. Again, still working on that ending. We talked about this last week. I got to Mick, maybe you can help me. I don't have a closing statement or
Good night.
a phrase. And it always ends with me trying to figure out how to shut this off.
I know.